Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain, and it's time to bring you a GB News exclusive.
It is indeed. So, off the back of their election success, with the party winning their first seats in Parliament, leader Nigel Farage is now switching from a nationwide plan to a local party structure. This is all plans to democratise the party.
Indeed. Well, yes, we're going to go over now to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who is joined by the chairman of Reform UK, Zia Yusuf, in Westminster for this big announcement. So, go on then.
Hello, Patrick. Hello. That's a big drum roll. Yeah, joining me now is Zia Yusuf. He's the Reform UK chairman with his first major interview since that election. I would say a win for the party, 5 MPs last month. Zia Yusuf, thank you for joining us on GB News. Nigel Farage wants to democratise your party. What does that look like?
Well, look, what we're focused on now, what I'm focused on as chairman, is turning this party into a formidable force in British politics. We are building a national infrastructure all over the country to build a grassroots ballot box winning machine. I've been chairman for 5 weeks. You know, what have we been up to? Well, firstly, we've been focused on drafting a constitution, essentially putting in place a chair in all of the constituencies in which we're going to have a local reform branch structure. We have seen our membership surge to 75,000, and that continues to rocket. We're going to be standing 2,300 candidates next year in local council elections, for which we've already had 3,000 applicants, Chris. 3,000 applicants, brilliant patriots from all sorts of backgrounds, so we're very excited about that. We also had an event 2 days ago, I think you've heard about this, did 70 constituency chairs, new constituency chairs of brand new reform branches. Those constituencies are composed of 6 million electors and constituents, and in 2 weeks' time we'll have another event with another 70 representing another 5 million. We have been busy organising our conference. It's going to be the biggest conference this party has ever seen. It's going to be unlike anything else seen before in British politics. 20th, 21st of September. I hope you've got your tickets, Chris, because we want you there, reformpartyconference.com. And most importantly, Chris, we have seen in the polls that have just come out in the last week, we have seen that the Reform Party are now polling at between 18 and 21%. That is up from the brilliant 14% that we won at the general election just a few weeks ago. And one of my mandates from Nigel as chairman is to ensure that we are now building a national infrastructure to convert all of that surging support into victory after victory at the ballot box.
So it seems that you're benefiting from the Tory party not having a leader until the 2nd of October. So you're sort of pushing forward, aren't you, with trying to win support. Is it actually working? I mean, there's been 2 polls since the election. Both show swings of voters towards Reform UK from the Labour Party. Are you seeing that on the ground?
We're seeing it, we're hearing it all the time, Chris. You know, as I said, 18 to 21% now is where our support is. Again, as I said, what's really important, ultimately polls are just not the thing that, unfortunately, that elects governments. The people do that at the ballot box, which is why we've been so focused on building this democratised branch structure across the country. But yes, absolutely. I mean, look, there are so many Labour voters, even this year, who are non-graduate, working class people who work really, really hard, who essentially already can see just how much Keir Starmer's government are actively working against their interests. And look, Reform are the natural home for those voters.
So 70,000 members, that's a big increase on the 20,000 or so early this year. Have you weeded out the bad apples, those who recorded saying dreadful remarks and can embarrass the party? They are a huge frustration for Nigel Farage.
Well, look, again, one of my mandates as chairman of the party is to ensure that we have absolutely outstanding candidates. Let me be really clear. We had an amazing roster of candidates overall. We had hundreds and hundreds of really amazing people who stood for reform, for which we're incredibly grateful. I look at the data, I look at all the hard work that was done during that election. I have enormous respect for all of the hard work building those campaigns, but what I will say is that what it wasn't was a well-oiled, slick machine, totally understandably, because this was a very threadbare, I mean, I'll tell you as chairman, the word threadbare resources doesn't begin to do it justice. So what we're focused on now is making sure we have an amazing roster of candidates. We will have that next year, we'll have it the year after that, and we'll have it the year after that.
And you are vetting them, aren't you? There was a problem, wasn't there, with vetting?
There absolutely was. Again, very small number, talking about 2 to 3%. But look, we make no excuses for that. Ultimately, we have to be better than that. We know we're going to get held to a higher standard than any other party. So let's be clear. We were by no means alone. Labour had problems, the Greens had problems, the Lib Dems had problems. But we know that. That's the game that we know we are playing. It's master level difficulty. That's the one that we will play and win. We have an in-house vetting team that is being built. We're investing heavily in it, and we won't have those problems again.
To what extent is the support for Reform UK, if you're ahead of Labour, of the Tory party in 2 polls, is a protest vote about the failure of over 14 years of the Tory party, and also the issue with Labour's, recently been quite divisive with some of its policies?
Well, Reform UK, my message to Reform UK members and supporters and people considering Reform UK is that this party is no longer a pressure group, right? This is a serious political party. We are going to be a formidable force in British politics. We're going to be durable. We're going to be here to stay. We're going to be using modern technology. And most importantly, we're going to be helping to manifest and convert all of that energy and support into victory at the ballot box.
Figures out today show that Reform UK's income is now 1.35 million, double in a year. That's the year to March. That's before your donation came in. How much money have you given to the party?
I've given 200,000.
Are you giving more?
I have no plans to give more, and I'll tell you why. It's because we have so many incredible people who want to give money. By the way, the biggest portion of our donations come from small donors. As I said, 75,000 members who pay £25 a year. Every day I get a report of people who are donating, £5, £10, £15. All of that is so important. Nigel gets so many checks through the mail from people. These are patriotic people who love.
Payable to him or to you?
Payable to the Reform Party and used, and they're going to be used to continue to build our infrastructure and going to be used in campaigns.
Are you looking at changing the logo, a name change even, a different colour of the branding?
There are many things on my to-do list, some of which we have prioritised. Changing the logo and the colour for now are not at the top of that list. I like the turquoise. You don't like the turquoise?
It's distinctive. Ben Habib, the former deputy leader, he's been critical of Reform UK. He has got no relationship with the leadership anymore, he says. He says that if Reform UK ran the government, it would be owned by Nigel Farage. What he means is that Reform UK is a company and most of the shares are owned by Nigel Farage. How do you change that, and will you change that?
We will change that, and let me be clear, Nigel Farage and Richard Tice have been on the record multiple times before the election and after the election saying, yes, of course, that will change, right? The history here is that if you know the history, for example, with UKIP, that unfortunately turned into an ungovernable circus, to put it kindly. And so we can only do one thing at a time, Chris. Look, we, of course, understand that members need to be given a democratic a set of rights in our constitution. That is what we are working on. That constitution, by the way, Chris, is an incredibly important document. We are chartering a course to be the party of government in this country in 2029. So that document must be fit for purpose today, for the next year, but also for when we're in government. And so we have to get that document right.
And will that document, when we see it, allow members to remove the leader, in this case Nigel Farage? That's what all parties must have, the right for members to remove a leader.
Of course it will.
How?
Well, when the Constitution comes out, we have some of the finest legal minds in the country working day and night, by the way, around the clock, like most of our team, to draft the document. I'm not going to write the document live on GBNews, as much as I'd love to do that with you now, Chris. But of course we're doing these things. Again, Nigel and Richard have been really clear that that's going to be a priority for us after the election, and that's what we're working on. Reform UK
is criticised by the left as being in some ways a racist party. Now that we obviously will contest that, and you would contest that. How do you feel about being a chairman of a party that has that reputation on the left?
Well, look, I think ultimately what Reform are about is standing up for British values, for people of Britain, British citizens of all backgrounds, regardless of the colour of your skin, which God you pray to, etc. That has been abundantly clear to me. That's why I got involved and backed Nigel. I've known Nigel for a decade. He has done, actually, here's the deep irony about this, he has done more, I would say, than any other British politician to be a scourge to the far right in terms of what happened with Griffin and, those BNP days. And as Nigel has said, look, because the BNP are not a real force, and not a force at all, really, in British politics anymore, those sorts of people don't necessarily have somewhere to go. So they represented a tiny, tiny fraction of the parties. Obviously, we had some candidates who don't represent our values. Again, we make no excuse about that. We absolutely understand that had to be resolved. But look, this party, again, what Reform are about is standing up for British values, British people of all backgrounds.
And just finally, the goal is to beat the Tories in 2028, 29.
Our goal is to be the party of government in 2029, which means beating Labour.
And that's possible from this low start, 5 MPs, 75,000 members. You can do that?
I built quite a successful and sophisticated technology company. I'm quite good with data. Okay. I have spent weeks and weeks and weeks poring over the data. We have a clear path to victory. Don't get me wrong, it's long odds. Right, saving the country generally is quite a difficult endeavour. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very tough, but it's absolutely possible, and we're going to do it.
Well, Zia Yusuf there, thank you for joining us. That's Zia Yusuf, Tom and Emily, the Reform UK chairman, in his first significant interview since that surprising and general election result there for Reform UK last month.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Christopher Hope there, College Green. Thank you very much, with the chairman of Reform UK. Apparently the money's flooding in. Huge numbers of members.
Oh, it certainly is, yes. But they obviously want to try to usurp Labour, don't they? Which is, going to be a big ask. But at the moment, we don't have an opposition. There is no opposition. We could have a budget without an opposition. We could have quite a lot of decisions being made, potentially a free movement of people, some immigration decisions being made without any opposition. So I suppose that there is that vacuum at the moment, isn't there? It remains to be seen whether or not they can sustain that.
Well, they certainly want to put across that they're putting their foot on the accelerator, don't they? Certainly not on the brakes. So we'll catch up on that, I'm sure, as they prepare for their big party conference.
Yeah, no, indeed. And I think, look, with everything that's gone on in Britain recently, like I was saying before, there has not been that opposition, has there? Rishi Sunak last seen in Beverly Hills eating an expensive pizza, apparently. But anyway.